EU leaders have begun talks in Brussels to try and agree a deal to release billions of pounds worth of frozen Russian assets to help fund Ukraine's military. Around £185 billion has been untouched since the start of the invasion, but the Times understands that the US is now pressuring European leaders not to seize the assets. Well, Bruno Waterfield is based in Brussels for the Times and joins me now. Hello, Bruno.
Hello.
Thanks for being with us. So look, Ursula von der Leyen has warned that this is going to be an intensive discussion. From what leaders have said this morning, how likely is it that this just kind of freezes up? How likely is the risk of deadlock here?
There is a risk of deadlock. In fact, there is deadlock. At the moment, it has to be noted that the EU has already permanently immobilised these assets, 210 billion euros of which is held on EU territory, but then using those assets to fund Ukraine to the tune of 90 billion euros over the next couple of years. That's where the deadlock is. And the Americans, we know, have been pressuring the Europeans because Trump is also eyeing that money. It's not that the Americans think you can't seize those assets or you can't use those assets for one reason or another. It's that they're alarmed perhaps at the fact that the Europeans will control those assets. Belgium is holding out. Bart de Wever, the Belgian Prime Minister, is holding out because 185 billion of those assets is held here in Brussels at a European Securities House called Euroclear. Just to put it in perspective for your listeners, it's the equivalent for Belgium of an institution in the City of London that holds £870 billion worth of Russian assets that could potentially become a liability for the Treasury if they're seized illegally. You can imagine the fuss, you can imagine the drama in the Treasury and the Bank of England on Threadneedle Street were that to happen. So for Belgium, it's a very, very big deal. The EU can override Belgium, but the French and the Italians definitely are saying, let's try and find another way to do it. Let's perhaps look at common borrowing to fund Ukraine rather than seizing these assets. The assets anyway, their fate will be determined in the peace negotiations that are going on at the moment.
Bruno, is Belgium's concern specifically about these assets and their liability, or are they also concerned about the sort of ongoing viability of their whole basically financial system if it seems that assets they're holding are not necessarily safe from being claimed for geopolitical reasons?
Yes, it's about financial stability. It's the liabilities on their balance sheet. Euroclear have already been downgraded by Fitch. They're worried about instability within the financial system, particularly the euro, which we know has been fragile at times. Those concerns are actually shared by the European Central Bank. The European Central Bank has suggested other ways of doing this. I think there will be some sort of fudge at this summit. They may well decide to use the Russian assets, but they may also find another way of doing it, perhaps using common borrowing that's agreed not by all the EU 27, but by the vast majority of them, perhaps 24 or 25.
And if they don't agree on any kind of money deal today, if they can't say by the end of today, at least the beginnings of a plan about how they're going to start funneling a lot more money to Ukraine, because we expect Ukraine to run out of money early next year, that's a major, major blow in the sort of European and EU solidarity with Ukraine, is it not?
Yes, I think, if you listen to every single leader going in, Bart de Wever especially, actually has very close connections to Ukraine, gets very emotional when he talks about Ukraine. He said, this summit has to, if there's one thing this summit has to do, it has to agree a way of finding 90 billion euros to be funneled to Kyiv to keep it from just falling over, actually, from completely running out of money by the end of 2027.
Bruno Waterfield, thank you very much indeed. Bruno is, of course, in Brussels for the Times.
It is good that the European Council has committed itself last time that we will close the financing gap of Ukraine for the next 2 years. We're speaking about 137 billion euros that are necessary. It's the estimate, our own estimate, and the estimate of the IMF. And we have committed to cover 2/3 of it, 90 billion euros. I totally support Belgium that they insist on having their concerns and worries accommodated. And we are working day and night with Belgium, and I want to thank the Prime Minister for his personal engagement here. It's absolutely understandable, and I support that if we take the reparations loan, the risk has to be shared by all of us. This is a matter of solidarity, a core principle of the European Union. We have to find a solution today. The President of the Council said, and I support him in that, we will not leave the European Council without a solution for the funding for Ukraine for the next 2 years. And the two options, one of them then has to be agreed in the European Council.
Either money today or blood tomorrow. And I am not talking about Ukraine only, I am talking about Europe. And this is our decision to make, and only ours. I think all European leaders have to finally rise to this occasion. And this is all what I can say today. Now.
Why are you against giving money to Ukraine? Why are you opposed?
Because I would not like to see a European Union which is in war. To give money means war. Guarantees for what? The whole idea is a stupid one. To take away the money of somebody. There are two countries which are in war, yeah? It's not European Union, Russia and Ukraine. And somebody, European Union, would like to take away the money of one of the warriors party and then to give it to another one. It's a marching into the war. So the Belgian Prime Minister is right. We should not do that.
They have to go back using the budget.
Now, the proposals that we have been working on, also addressing Belgium's concerns. I think to go for the legislative proposal means that we all take the risk because it's a European proposal, so the risk and the burden is shared equally. So I think the issues that Belgium has raised, we have also addressed. So I hope that we get this over the finishing line.